fascinating place. We're in Powell County, Kentucky, and we're in a temple. And my guest today is Mr. Bob Gentner. And Bob, you've been here for a while. Where are we? And tell me a little bit about how you ended up in Kentucky.
Yeah. Well, I went to graduate school in Ohio, and when I finished my doctoral work, went back to Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where I grew up, and was in private practice. And then a job appeared at Eastern Kentucky University, and I took the job early in my career. And
what job did you take?
I was a professor in psychology, and when I left, I was the director of clinical training for psychologists.
And that was in what year?
Oh, let's see. I must have 73 to 79. I had tenure, so I had to have been there 7 years. So maybe 72 to 79.
So was that your first real job?
It was my first job. Yeah, my first professional job. I had a lot of jobs before that, part-time jobs.
Right.
But,
But this was your degree. This was
my career.
Your doctorate.
Yeah, actually, it was my second because I was in private practice on Cape Cod for a while.
Okay.
And then came here.
So you were a practicing psychologist, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, clinical psychologist.
And you're not doing that now, or are you doing that now?
Very, very little. Semi-retired.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this temple is amazing, and we'll show footage of the outside and the inside. But what is this, and what are you doing here?
Yeah. So I got interested in Zen Buddhism reading a book by Alan Watts called Psychotherapy East and West. So my entry into Zen was from the psychological perspective rather than this religious perspective, although they meet in the middle. And so I read this book when I was in undergraduate, actually, in a seminar, and it caught hold of my attention. And so I studied Zen off and on while I was in graduate school. And then when I graduated, I studied some more, and I would go to Gethsemane a lot, and the monastery in Kentucky, and so had a deep interest in Zen meditation. And I started practicing Zen meditation with a teacher in upstate New York. His name was Son Nakagawa Roshi. He was Japanese, and his particular style of Zen practice is called Rinzai, which is very formal and very strict. And I studied with him until he died, and his successor was not somebody I connected with. So I wrote this Korean Zen Master a letter saying, I had read about him in a book, and I wrote him a letter and saying, I'd been practicing for 10 years, blah, blah, blah. What did you attain? And he wrote me back, and he said, you wrote that you've been practicing for 10 years. What did you attain? And it just kind of caught me up, hit my mind. And so I went and I sat with him. His center is in Rhode Island, actually in Cumberland, Rhode Island. It was in Providence in the early days. And it was called the Providence Zen Center. And so you study Zen usually with a teacher, like you would study a martial art you'd have a sensei or a teacher. So this was Zen Master Sung San, and he was clearly my root teacher. And he would come to Lexington. We had a little meditation room in the house we lived in Lexington, and we'd have retreats, and he would come and lead the retreats once a year. And other people from Rhode Island would come and lead retreats. And we started to outgrow the house and decided that we wanted a center in the country. And so we were traveling to visit my wife's parents, my in-laws, who live in Oneida, Kentucky, Clay County. and you go right by this place. And so we go through the gorge and all, and I'd look up at the rock cliffs, and I would say to my mother of my children, they'd say, look, this is what we need. We need a piece of property with a big rock like that on it. And we both laughed at the impossibility. And we stopped in Clay City and got a Clay City Times, and it was just a little ad that said farm for sale. And I said to Mara, maybe check that out on Monday. This was Sunday, we're coming back. And so she came, looked at it, she said it was exactly like we described. And so on Tuesday we bought it, and put everything together and that we could, and put mortgages on houses and things. And we had been looking a lot. My teacher would come once a year, and for about 10 years we were looking. And we would also go to Gethsemane. He led retreats, Zen meditation retreats at Gethsemane as well. So when I bought this and he came, he thought, but when he saw it, he said, this is an amazing, amazing place. And in Asia, they want a auspicious building to be placed in what's called geomantic balance, or geomancy. It's like outdoor Feng Shui, the arrangement of things. Well, the earth arranges in certain ways, like, and we'll go out later, but you can see out the valley, there's two ridges and then a mountain in the distance. And these ridges support this spot here. And then we have the big rock behind, which also supports this. So it's like an energetic prism, so that when you meditate in a spot with this kind of configuration, the energy is much stronger. Meditation energy is much stronger. And and this is considered a perfectly balanced geomancy. And the way the geomancy is balanced is as you look out the valley, on the right side is called the white tiger, and on the left side is called the blue dragon, and on the distance is called the red bird, and behind it is called black turtle. So the black turtle is like the spine on the land, and the white tiger is the yang, or masculine side, and the blue dragon is the yin, or feminine side, and the red bird keeps the energy in. And here, right here, where we're sitting, is called golden chicken hatches golden egg. And this it faces the west, so it's in Buddhism, the west is considered the pure land, the place of heaven where, the sun sets in the west, that our lives set in the pure land, would be the metaphor. So then we built the tea house, which is you saw on the way in, and that was our meditation hall, and then we slowly built this place.
Well, it's a breathtakingly beautiful place,
yeah,
and the land, as you described, is also beautiful. Kentucky is a neat place. It has land that can be somewhat flat, but then you have not mountains, but certainly hills, and you're perched here at a beautiful spot with an amazing view. So I can see why people would find peace here.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
you have people. We all need to understand that the COVID year, you can't do anything, but you have had people come from all over the world, I assume, here. And
Oh, absolutely.
all over the United States that come here.
Yeah, for sure.
You're a Zen Buddhist, so you don't use your name Bob when you're a Zen Buddhist. What is your name?
My teacher gave me the name. It's Dae, Dae Gak, G-A-K, Dae Gak.
Okay. And is there any formality to that when you're using that with people here in the retreat? Do they call you that? Is that your name that they call you, or do you have?
Yeah, in America intimacy is expressed by informality.
Yes.
Whereas in Asia, like my name in Korean would be Dae Gak Sun Sanim, which is honored Zen Master. But in America, people just say, "Hey, Dae Gak."
So, when you're leading a retreat here, tell me a little bit about what that experience is like. I don't know a lot about Buddhism or Zen Buddhism. I assume there's a difference between the two, but is there a lot of meditation? Is there a lot of silence?
Yeah,
Is there...
it's the whole thing is done in silence.
Okay.
Except there's some chanting, some singing together. Our particular lineage or school stresses together action, so that that the practice is not about one's own personal enlightenment, but rather acting together with all beings. Kind of spiritual friendship. But a typical retreat would be, we have 3-day, 7-day, and then a month-long. And sometimes, in some places they're 3-month-long, and we're thinking of starting a 3-month-long retreat once things change. But everything is done in silence. There's a little bit of chanting, and mostly sitting quietly. And the first practice most people do is count their breath to 10 and then start over, on the out breath, 1, 2. And the support of the retreat is for stillness and silence, so that there's strictly not talking. And when you're sitting, to find some non-moving pose, so that both to support the atmosphere, but also to allow a kind of quieting of the mind.
Would people come here that are inexperienced? Maybe I've never been to a retreat like this. Is this something that I could come to, or is this more for people who have experience? Because if you are talking or not talking, it would be hard to get instructions to me.
Yeah, during we have intro retreats that people come to, but also during the retreat there are interviews or meetings where I meet with people one-on-one, and people talk about their practice or any concerns. And there's usually a talk. I usually give a talk, or we'll probably have other teachers in the near future start to teach as well. But I give a talk at usually at 10 a.m. And after the talk, there's a walk around the big rock that people, that's optional, but a lot of people do that. So a lot of walking, a lot of quiet sitting.
So when people are here at the retreat, are they expected to maybe go out on a rock somewhere and sit and meditate, or is there a specific place where the meditation occurs?
Yeah, we sit here together, and the expectation is that people will come here at the times designated, and do come at the times to eat. We have a ritual kind of eating, which is called in Japanese it's called oryoki. In Korean it's called 4-bowl style, and you receive your food in one bowl, in 3 bowls, and you hold water in the other. And there's a ritual that we pass through. You wash with the tea and then pass the water through. And so it's a kind of meditation in making eating mindful.
Is it also done in silence, the eating?
Done in silence, yeah.
Okay. When people come for, let's just say a 3-day retreat, what would they leave thinking that they gained from the retreat? What would you hope that they would think that they gained?
Some clarity of mind, some sense of agency of one's life as opposed to ego protection. Possibility. Seeing life as possibility as opposed to...
I have a question.
Sure.
if someone receives a untimely diagnosis, let's say cancer, sometimes they have a really hard time accepting it and then being able to move on with treatment, or maybe accept that it's not going to be treatment. Is this something that they could do where they could come and quiet themselves down and reflect on what's happened to them, and then maybe gain a more clear vision of their future? Is that have people ever done that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. We've had more than one person who was terminally ill come for a period and look into it. Naomi Remen does that. Does a wonderful job. And we've thought of years ago. There was a fellow who is planning to donate. It was a lot of money, and we were going to build like a reception building where we'd have, and our first phase was going to be hospice workers, and as a renewal, so that they could come.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then the second phase was going to be training, hospice training, and then the third phase was going to be patients and having patients come and sit with their.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was really great. He died unexpectedly before we could get going.
Do you have older people come to the retreat?
We do, and we are getting older. Yeah.
Have you had people in their 90s come here? Have you had people in their 80s come here?
People in their 80s. I don't know if we have had anybody in their 90s sit.
Do you have young people come? People in their 20s?
Some, some. Some.
Mostly individuals that come, or do you have couples that come? Or
some couples, yeah. People from all walks of life, people from all religions. You don't have to necessarily identify as a Zen Buddhist to come.
Okay. So you welcome all faiths?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
When you started this facility, you've been here how many years?
36.
Did you think it would be your life's work?
Oh yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
So you were clear with that?
No question.
Yeah.
And there have been times when I've been the only one here.
Okay. And do you think this will be where you stay? You're a young guy. You may have other aspirations, but do you think this is... It's amazing when I talk to people who actually have a life's work and it encompasses their life. A lot of people have a period of time in their life where they do something for a long time, but rarely do you have people that start out maybe with their life's work and end in their life's work. And this is sort of like what's happening to you.
Yeah, and it's certainly a question of what will I do, in whatever life I have left. Right now, I think most importantly is that there's a kind of phenomenon called founder syndrome, where the founder comes and they have some vision, and but they kind of hold a little bit too tight and don't want to change. So that's kind of where we are. Sort of crowbarring my fingers off the wheel.
What do the Zen Buddhists believe? What is the afterlife with Zen Buddhism?
Yeah. Zen Buddhism doesn't have a set of beliefs.
Okay.
It's non-dogmatic. There's no doctrine. You don't have to believe in anything. There's not a sense of worshiping the Buddha as a god. The Buddha was a man who had a question: who am I? What is life? What is the meaning of life and death? And so that's the teaching. But the teaching has also evolved well beyond him, as all religious teachings have, of course. But it's not. the primary movement of Zen practice is realizing the mind of compassion, so that not becoming better at being compassion, but realizing the kind of interconnectedness of life, and from that there's the recognition of compassion. That if your right hand thinks that the left hand is not part of the same body, and the left hand gets on fire, the right hand says, "Oh, I better call the fire department." But when the right hand realizes that the left hand is the same body, that, when the left hand's on fire, the right hand puts it out. And so, that's if there's a hope in Zen practice, it's that that mind will get realized, so that it's not an athletic kind of achievement, but rather an expression of our fundamental human goodness and interconnectedness.
Well,
that would be the hope.
Yeah. Well, you have obviously traveled all over the world, and you've been to places similar to yours. I really can't imagine that there's a place any more perfect than this. I mean, you're very lucky.
Very, very lucky. Yeah.
To have found this location and build this beautiful. Is it a temple? Is that what we would call it?
Yeah. That's a Buddhist. That's what the townspeople call it. The Buddhists.
Yeah.
The Buddhist temple. Yeah.
Hey, since you're here, you're in it's not a compound, but I mean it's a large piece of property. Have people thought of this as a cult? Have they wondered what kind of wacky people are going up there? What's going on? Has that ever happened? Have you ever had any questions? Have you ever had people ask what the heck's going on up there?
Yeah. There have been that, but mostly people are very generous, and we have a good relationship with the neighbors. Yeah, people have been remarkably. I'm sure that there are people who find what we do confusing at best, but for the most part, we've had a little bit of somebody stole a motorbike once, and we've had chainsaws stolen and pumps stolen, but other than that kind of small thievery, we've been pretty accepted, and part of the community as well. Fighting for preserving the forests and not mining there a couple times. So we've band with our neighbors to try to stop a sand mine and also a limestone mine. So with some success. So there's that.
Well, let's assume that next year, or maybe this year later in the fall, you can return to normal. Is there, when people watch this and they want to maybe come to a retreat or they want to find out more information, do you have a website? Do you have information?
Yep.
So we'll link all of that in the description of this video. So people out there that are looking to maybe investigate coming to one of your retreats, we'll have that information for them to find you.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh, it's I've lived in Kentucky all my life, and not every person can go to every inch of their place in their state that they live, but when I found out that this place existed, it kind of blew my mind, and it really got me curious about why does this place exist where it does. But now coming here, you understand. You see what I'm seeing right now, looking out the window, and you see the temple that you're in, and you get it.
Yeah.
At that point, so.
Yeah, many people say, why would you do that in Kentucky or in Powell County of all places? And nobody says that after they've been here.
Well, every place has to be somewhere, and just because the perfect spot ended up in Powell County, Kentucky. That's just the way it ended up. So, yeah, if anybody is watching this and they're interested, look at some of the pictures and maybe come to your website and see some of the stuff that you have on there. But it truly is breathtakingly beautiful, a really neat place. And all I can do is thank you for inviting me in and letting me see your facility, and wish you the very best going forward. Thank you so much for your time, Bob.
Thank you.
Dae Gak.
Dae Gak.